Hey everyone, I'm Grant, the Rusty Autoholic guy, and welcome back to the channel. Today I got in the new correctly sized crankshaft adapter to adapt the Kubota V2403 to my Ford 6R80 6-speed automatic. So what we're first going to do is remove the crankshaft adapter that's currently on the engine. We will install the new one. We'll then put on the starter locator plate. Then we'll reinstall the flex plate. We'll then put the torque converter back into the transmission, and then we will try mating the engine to the transmission again and see if the engine will spin freely. So with all that said, I'm going to get to work. All right, I want to see if y'all can see the difference. This was the adapter that I just took off the engine. This is the new one. It's a slight change, but you can see that this adapter is thinner by a little over 100 thousandths of an inch. You really want to do this part by hand. You don't want to use an impact to try to drive this on. It's a great way to strip out the threads, especially if you don't have this aligned correctly. You could cause a lot of problems. Always do this by hand. The other thing you want to make sure you do is before you start tightening this, you want to start all the bolts. Because I have seen it where I could get 5 bolts in, but not that 6th bolt, and I've had to pull it off again and start over. So the best thing to do is just to start by hand all 6 bolts, and if all 6 bolts catch, then you're good to start kind of pressing the crankshaft adapter in. Now, what I'm doing is I'm just barely depressing the trigger just to speed up the process. I'm not going full blast on these bolts going into the crankshaft adapter. Just like that. All right, we have the crankshaft adapter on, we have the flex plate on, we have the starter shield on. I'm now going to reinstall the torque converter into the transmission, and then we will try getting the two mated to each other again, and then I'll try spinning the engine over to make sure there's no bind. Now, a little trick I like doing is taking a little bit of this multi-purpose grease and putting a little bit on the seal here for the input shaft on the transmission. It just helps protect the seal, and it allows this part of the torque converter to slide on a little bit easier without catching the seal and potentially ripping it or destroying it. Okay, I believe that is on correctly. Spins freely, and I can't spin it and get it to push in any further. And if you look down this way, it looks like the torque converter is in all the way as well. So, now I'm going to clean up this area a little bit. We're going to reattach the engine to my hoist, lift it up, and try mating the two. Now, the other thing I need to make sure of is that the torque converter lines up with the flex plate. Unlike the AW4 where you put bolts through, there are studs on this torque converter and they have to go through the flex plate. So I'm now going to make sure that those line up before I try getting the two to go together. That was significantly easier than before. So now, just need to put 2 bolts in it real quick. Alright, I've repositioned the camera so you can see everything. I'm now going to try to spin the crankshaft on the engine. The last time I tried doing it, the tolerances between the transmission and the engine were so tight it was causing a bind. You really want this to be spinning freely so you don't cause a problem. Oh yeah. What I'm feeling right now is the compression in the engine. You can even hear it out of the turbo. So this works perfectly. The other thing I was just noticing, let me spin it again. Unlike the AW4, I now have access to the torque converter studs right here. That's actually going to be really nice when I go to put all the nuts onto the torque converter studs. I really like that design. So now that I know everything fits and the engine spins freely, I'm going to run to the hardware store. I'm going to get all the fasteners I need for the bell housing bolts, and I'm going to get the nuts I need for the torque converter studs. I'm going to come back here, test fit everything again, and we'll see how it goes. See you soon. All right, everyone. Got all the hardware I hopefully need. We're now going to completely fasten the transmission to the engine, and then I'm also going to secure the torque converter to the flex plate and spin the engine again. I realize this seems like a lot of work, but I don't want to discover a problem once I've put the engine and transmission back in my Wrangler. So I'm going to get to it. I don't have a great way of you seeing this, but I bought extra just in case, but I'm about to install the nuts onto the torque converter. There's going to be 4 of them. There's a hole right here where I can do it, which is actually a really, really nice design feature. All right, everyone, we have the engine completely mated to the transmission. All the bolts on the bell housing are installed. I need a longer one right here because I can't get a washer and a lock washer on it, but that's not a huge problem. I have all 4 nuts attached to the torque converter going through the flex plate, and I can spin, if I can get this on correct, I can spin the engine with ease. I'm just running into the engine compression. So everything works. I'm really happy with it. So now what we're going to do is take it all apart, because I need to put Loctite on the bolts for the crankshaft adapter to the crankshaft. I need to put Loctite on the bolts for the flex plate to the crankshaft, and I need to torque all of that. This should just slide right off. Look at that. That is a massive improvement to last time. If you will remember last time, the tolerance here was so tight it actually held the torque converter, and it pulled the torque converter out of the transmission. Not exactly what you want to happen when you're trying to pull a transmission off. So now all we have to do is remove these 6 bolts, remove the flex plate, and then we'll be able to access the bolts for the crankshaft adapter to the crankshaft. This was a massive fail, and I need to go ahead and apologize. I'm not going to take this back apart. I didn't realize the camera wasn't recording. I just lost about 25 minutes of work. I had taken the flex plate off by removing the flex plate bolts. I then took the crankshaft bolts out of the crankshaft adapter. I put Loctite on all of them. I torqued everything down to spec. I then reinstalled the flex plate. I put Loctite on those bolts. Again, torquing them down to spec. And it's all back together. So anyway, the next time you see me, we will be reinstalling the engine into my Wrangler, and then we will also be installing the Ford 6R80 automatic into the Wrangler to make sure we don't have any kind of clearance issues with the tub or anything, because the more I look at this transmission, the more I realize it is quite a bit beefier than the AW4 automatic that I pulled out of it. So anyway, it's YouTube. You know what to do. Take out more than you bring, tread lightly, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.